Hello and welcome to the Powered by Rock podcast, where I'm going to be speaking with the Nashville-based indie rock band, the Dreaded LaramiE, after putting out an EP titled the Dreaded LaramiE.P. Hard to say, but it sounds cool and it looks cool on the moniker there. In 2019, they're set to release their next EP called Everything a Girl Could Ask on May 13th, which is a Friday. But damn those superstitions, because I'm sure that nothing but magic will come to the band upon release day. We'll be speaking to the Dreaded LaramiE right after this. You're listening to the Powered by Rock podcast with your host, Isaac Kuhlman. The Powered by Rock podcast was created to help showcase some of the best rock musicians in the world and to pass on to future generations the rock music that has inspired rock fans around the world for decades. We want listeners to be able to hear great stories and life experiences directly from their favorite artists, as well as dig deeper into music theory and talk rock like no other show you've ever heard. This isn't about looking cool, it's about getting real and having a great time. Without further ado, let's start the show. All right. Hello and welcome to the Power by Rock podcast. I'm super excited to be speaking with MC, Zach, Andrew, and Drew. Andrew from the band Dreaded LaramiE today to talk about their music and the roller coaster of what being in a band entails. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Thank you.
All right. So before we dig into the new EP, I would like to take a step back and just kind of get a bit of an introduction from you guys to the world, because you're kind of a rising band that a lot of people probably haven't heard of right now. Hopefully that'll change in the very near future. But I just kind of want to see, like, how did you guys all come together as a band, and how did the project start in the first place? And MC, if you want to start, I guess we can go from there.
Totally, yeah. I'm MC. I play guitar and sing in the band, and one of the founding members. Zach and I put this band together originally back in 2016, if you can believe it, back when we were in college together. So it started with us and a couple of different members who are still dear friends to us. But we picked up Drew along the way in 2018, and Andrew joined us just in 2021, just over a year ago. It's hard to believe. It feels like it's been a lot longer than that.
Yeah. So Andrew, just out of curiosity, was the mustache intact at that time, or did you grow that in the meantime?
It started there and then it went away for a little, and now it's on the comeback.
Very cool. Because I'm like, it looks like a pretty recent mustache, but could just be the way that you manicure it. I don't know.
No, it's I'm growing it back out.
Nice.
Just in the last couple weeks.
Cool. So sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, MC, but just thinking of the length of him being in the band and how long that mustache must have taken to grow is kind of like connected in my brain now.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's an important issue.
I was going to say, I think that's how long it would take me to grow that mustache. Is the entirety
I don't really grow
of the
the
time.
facial hair very easily, so I have to shave. But otherwise I just look like a freaking weirdo. I got all this patchiness. It's not very cool looking, so I don't do that. But let's get back to the actual task at hand here, and let's talk about the music, because I think one of my favorite things about your guys' sound is it's reminiscent of some really great female-led bands like the Breeders, Veruca Salt, a little bit of like Taco Cat. And I'm probably just showing my age with some of these references, but what influences did you kind of have when defining the sound of the Dreaded LaramiE?
Yeah, that is such a good question. I'll say a few. I'm curious to hear what others will say too. But like in terms of female-fronted bands, definitely, no doubt, it has been a big influence to us for developing the kind of sound and feel, and especially stage personas. Charlie Bliss is a band that we love too. Okay. I feel like for me anyway, the three kind of bands that are the closest in our orbit and the biggest influence would be like Charlie Bliss, Pup, and Roswell Kid. Those are three bands we really, and Weezer, of course. You can look behind Zach and see, but yeah. I mentioned that in our pre little interview talk, that giant wall thing of Weezer. I'm like, that's pretty awesome, which actually that's a great segue, because that's what I was going to talk about next, because I think in one of your guys' bios, it said something that you guys bonded over Weezer B-sides, which, I'm a huge Weezer fan. I really like the early stuff a lot more than the new stuff, and I really like the unreleased and B-side stuff even more so. So I'm curious, what kind of B-sides are we talking about? Because I think some of the stuff like Death to False Metal and
And even I've heard the unreleased album, Songs from the Black Hole, which basically what led into what the hell's the name of the Pinkerton? I'm like, I was gonna say Pikachu at first, and that's not right.
That'd be great.
Pinkerton. It led into Pinkerton, but it basically kind of caused a split in the band. But have you guys? What's your kind of? What are we talking about here? Is it more like in that mid 2000s era with Death to False Metal and some of the unreleased stuff that Rivers was putting out at that time?
Man, it is any and all of it. To be honest, like I mean, this is a good mix between the two questions. Is that I feel like when I first really really started hanging out with MC back in school, it was when we had just gotten home from winter break. And right before winter break, I had told MC, like, hey, you should check out this band, The Rentals, and Weezer is this band that I care a lot about. And when MC had gotten back from break, she like knew all of it and and we would like take drives and just like get really, really into it. It started out as being like just kind of the Pinkerton B-sides and being really into like, Tragic Girl and You Gave Your Love to Me Softly.
Yeah, it's a great song.
And Devotion. God, they're like all good, honestly. But I would say that we've kept up with it, and for like a lot of new releases that have come out since then, we also have hard opinions about those, like how good the White Album is,
how bad the Black Album was, but yeah. In my opinion, I'm like, wow. Van Weezer. Wow, man, I was like so disappointed in that one. But anyway, that's me.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, if I wanted to make a whole album of Guitar Trolls, I could have just had Eddie Van Halen just do that for like, oh, he already did that for like 10 albums. Cool. I should just listen to that instead.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, so yeah, the era of Weezer. I think MC and I both agree that we can find diamonds all across their catalog.
Sure,
but,
absolutely.
But also you can find whatever the opposite of diamonds are.
Coal.
Sure. Fair.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally get that. I mean, they're one of those bands that have the quote unquote hardcore fans that like can't like anything past Pinkerton. I'm like, Maladroit's a great album. The Green Album wasn't so bad. I'm like, there's some good stuff in there. But then, if you look at like the Red Album, for example, I get like a little lost because I like some of the songs, but then other songs, I'm like, this is just horrible. But yeah, I digress.
So, talk about an album with great B-sides. The Red Album, the B-sides kill all the A-sides.
Yeah. I mean, I Am the Greatest Man in the World probably wasn't my favorite Rivers Cuomo song of all time, but I was like, yeah, okay.
But Miss
Anyway.
Sweeney is great.
Yeah.
That Rivers, that dude is just such a creative force. He will just make everything that his heart desires and give it all to us. And so, I'm grateful for that, for the good and the bad.
For sure. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have, all that other stuff that he puts out. And that's like, well, that's really good. Why didn't you put that out? And then like, Okay Human comes out and it's like, they don't even talk about that one. It's like, that's a really good album. Why didn't you talk about that one a little bit more? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to your guys' music. I just think that it's fun to, obviously have a shared bonding experience with a guest on the show. But one of my favorite things about your band is it's kind of reflected in a quote. I think it was from Drew. It was on the Sell the Heart website where Drew says, everybody's weird. We just try to desperately hide it. And I feel like this is kind of a way to explain indie artists and maybe your music as well, as like, there's kind of like a social awkwardness or an introvert kind of thing that's kind of being expressed through these pop rock anthems. Did you have anything that else you want to add to that, Drew, or MC, you want to kind of hop in there and add anything to that as well?
Oh, I could talk about that forever. I feel like there are so many different angles to tackle it from, like the way that both catchiness and what we consider accessible also digs into like social anxiety, where you are adding in something that is more accessible for the sake of like communicating your desire to be understood. And then from the other angle, stuff that's like totally incomprehensible even to yourself, also trying to communicate wanting to be understood. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I could talk about that all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of one of those things that, especially for introverted people, it's actually easier to write a song about how you feel than to tell anybody in person, like, hey, this is what I think about you, or like, you know, confront somebody on an issue. It's like, I'm just going to write a song about this and never talk to that person again.
And, you know, I think, not to put you on the spot here, Zach, but for me and Zach, like, neurodivergence comes into play, where it's like, well, my brain doesn't work like how the world thinks it's supposed to. So guess I'm just going to like hit these strings as good as I can, and hope that that's something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's probably one of my favorite things about musicians and artists in general, is that they don't have to play by the same playbook as everybody else, because everybody else is thinking like, oh, this is exactly how things work. It's all very linear. You know, if I see a step-by-step manual on life, I'm going to do that. Whereas artists are like, I'm already bored after like the first step, so let me go ahead and try something else. This isn't working the way I want, so let's go ahead and see what else is out there. And you know, obviously, especially, you know, fronting a band, MC, it's different than, you know, even, you know, because you guys don't have to say anything. Just, you're, you know, singing background vocals, but you don't have to be like the face, the voice of the band in that sense of like what's being said. Now, obviously, anybody can contribute to the lyrics in the band, but you know, MC as the singer is the main focal point for what people are looking at. Do you ever feel like, you know, hey, you know, I got a lot more at stake for what's actually coming out of my mouth? Or, you know, I don't know if you are an introvert or an extrovert, but most artists in general are usually introverts. So when they say stuff, like at first it can be kind of nerve wracking, and then once you get going, it's like, this is just, I don't care what people think anymore.
Yeah, I definitely am an introvert, a hard introvert.
Yeah.
Hence the looking for a 1-bedroom apartment in Nashville, regardless of the cost. But yeah, I mean, I think that is hopefully like this very issue is something people notice as a difference, or like a point of hopefully growth and development from the first EP to the second. Is in the first, like we love those songs, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot at stake. They are not very, for the most part, not very personal songs. And this new EP is considerably more kind of personal and revealing, and gets into vulnerabilities and insecurities. Which is a trajectory that's only kind of continuing the more confident we become as a band, and the more confident I become as a result of therapy. Becoming able to like discuss these, or I don't know, discuss is maybe a funny word, but yeah, to be able to talk about this stuff in songs in a very public way. Yeah, it's well,
let's dive into it, because obviously the newest single off the new EP is "Tell Me," right? So it seems like it's a bit of a reaction song to, you know, people telling you what to do, some gaslighting, some mansplaining, whatever you want to call it. But you can definitely tell it's like it's in there, and I think it's a very in the forefront issue right now, especially with women, because, you know, and I'll talk about this in a second, but Donald Trump made gaslighting a national like pastime almost. It was like, what the fuck? I don't know how can you lie so much and then make people feel bad about you lying about it? That makes no goddamn sense to me. But I just kind of wondering if this is kind of a little bit of that message in "Tell Me," or is it totally off base, or is there some of that plus some of the other stuff about like how people are, you know, because the whole point is like you're trying to find, you know, go back home and be around the people that love you. But it's like you're trying to explain this issue to the person in the song, right?
Yeah, no, I think you totally nailed it. It is like definitely a song about trying to recover a kind of sense of self and get back in touch with who you are, or who I am, because of this like, total self-alienation, or like gaslighting, if you want to call it that, which in some cases it is, and maybe some cases it's just like, I don't know, similar but related or different things.
Yeah. Well, I think you talked
but-
about like, you know, taking a less of a more subordinate role in a relationship to, you know, try to make the relationship work. And it's like, that's not usually the best thing to do in a relationship, because then it's like you're not being who you truly are.
I'm gonna stick that one in my pocket and save it for later.
Yeah, I think just to chime in too, that like what you're describing, and like it is one of the things that like that I've always loved so much about particularly rock music is you know, whether, as Drew was mentioning, we were talking about, you know, there being some like neurodivergent stuff, or you know, all of the ways that we like look to other people to give ourselves our like kind of our sense of identity. And I think this band in particular has been a really, really powerful experience for me to like kind of reclaim all of the times that I felt like sort of like powerless or helpless because of not fitting into a certain stereotype of like kind of what I'm supposed to be. And so Tell Me is like, to me is like looking and being like, okay, well, like I've for so long been looking to other people to give me the validation that I need or something. And I think like that song and what I, you know, hope our music will make people do is feel like empowered to like kind of be themselves and have like that confidence within themselves.
Yeah. And I don't think it's female or male specific, right? I mean, it's for any person of any gender, of any, you know, binary, like non-binary, binary role that they want to, you know, project or whatever. I think anybody who knows anything about human interaction is there's always one person saying you should be like this, and another person going, well, I don't feel like I should be like that. It's literally every single relationship, no matter if it's friends to friends, you know, parent to child or whatever, it is always that kind of thing. Or, you know, obviously, you know, romantic relationships, it's constant struggle of, you know, find somebody who will let you be yourself and is happy with that. And then in the end, it's very tough to find. But then when you do, it's like it's, you know, it's like fits you like a glove kind of thing. So one thing I was going to say, and I kind of talked about it, but I will say that I absolutely abhor Donald Trump, and have since the first time I ever saw that dude back in the 80s. But one good thing that came out of his presidency was the awakening of gaslighting and mansplaining, and really looking into this as a public thing. And basically, you know, it's the case study in how to be a shitty human, basically, right? So now that we have that playbook that we can say, here's what you shouldn't do as a person. Do you think that kind of helps, like in for instance, when you're saying, you know, basically reflecting back what you've been told in these same situations, do you think it kind of helps people identify, hey, this is not right anymore? We can't just tell people what to do and then make them feel bad about it. Do you think that's kind of like more prevalent and more of a kind of both sides, the person who's being the explainer and then the person who's being the receiver? Do you think that both people are more aware of that now?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like when a phenomenon like that is so foregrounded in the country, like in the media, in your everyday life, it can't help but be more easily recognizable, which doesn't necessarily like make it a great thing or like justify it like at all. But I mean, I think you could definitely look at that as a silver lining of a byproduct of that kind of thing happening. It would always be ideal if that kind of thing was recognizable through other means. Then it becoming just the norm. But
and unfortunately, some people took it as like, I can, and now it's okay because the president does it, right? So then there's the opposite of that, which makes it even worse.
Yeah, yikes. What happy, exciting times we live in.
Everyone's just having a normal one.
Yeah. So I'm just curious as to, you know, obviously as a independent rock band, you know, I'm curious as to why you guys decided to follow up an EP with another EP. I know most bands probably start with a few EPs and then do a full length. I think even one band I was looking the other day, they did like 6 EPs before they ever had an LP, and I was like, well, that's a lot of EPs. Like you could have just made a greatest hits album and put it as an LP or whatever. But what was the decision behind you guys going for another EP? Was it kind of like time, money, getting momentum thing? Or was it just like, here's what we got right now, and this is what we think we can put together?
I feel like I've been talking a lot. Drew, do you want to take this?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, we may all have different answers to this, honestly. The way I remember it is partially expenses, in that, we are doing this ourselves, and we have, wonderful friends who we are fortunate enough to collaborate with. But, we're just doing this ourselves right now and raising the funds. So part of it's that. Part of it is pandemic. I mean, it's easier to get 3 songs together when you have a tight schedule around living in different cities and also having to intersperse quarantining and stuff. We are working towards an album, so that's in the works. That's something that we've been working towards for a while now. But at least as far as I remember the EP, it's kind of equal parts like, well, we love these songs, how they sit together. We want these to be able to be an artistic statement together. And then also just the like functional, well, we want to get something out there.
Exactly.
And we only
It's
have
like, well,
so much money.
we can't wait 2 years for an album, but we can put out this EP in like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, we had originally intended for them to be singles that would bridge the gap between the first EP and the album that were supposed to be recorded. So we released the first EP fall of 2019 or end of summer, and then planned to record these songs at the beginning of 2020, release them while we worked on the record. Of course, that didn't happen. And so we weren't able to record them until last April. So yeah, that was the pandemic did not help with the timeline whatsoever.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's certainly not due to lack of material, because we have over 20 songs that we're narrowing down for the record right now. So we've got plenty of
I was going to say,
material.
if I show up, are you guys only going to play like 5 songs and be like, we're out, see you later?
No.
It did work out in a way, having to reschedule the recording and push it back because we pushed it back. We were able to through Zach bring Andrew in,
Nice.
and I think that these songs are so infinitely better for it. So it could be easy to mourn the loss of like, oh, we could have recorded these a year earlier or whatever. But honestly, it's kind of for the best because we got to have Andrew on them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I mean, yeah, the one thing I think it's awesome is because I have actually had the privilege of hearing the whole EP, the 3 songs for this new one. MC sent that to me earlier today, and I was like, these are damn good. So I will say that, in my opinion, and I think anybody who could listen to that, including you guys, would look at this as a higher production value put behind it. The songs are a bit more up tempo. They actually do have some of that Weezer feel behind it, which I was pretty excited about. I can hear the extra guitars in there. I can hear the little solos in there, and definitely the up tempo-ness of it was a lot different. So the songs Archipelago and Where Do the Heart Kids Go kind of fit in there perfectly with Tell Me. It's like you said, Drew, the 3 songs kind of fit together so well that I think that if the whole album that comes out is anything like this phase, it will go kind of from the indie rock to kind of more like the pop rock, and it will be a lot more accessible to a lot more people, because I thought all 3 songs were fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Andrew, I will say that I'm pretty sure, and I'm trying to remember the Tell Me video, by the way. In that video, you guys play some interesting characters, and I was just curious if any of you guys felt like you kind of were like really channeling an inner, coach or inner person that was like, this is great. I get to act like this person because I've always wanted to be that person. I know, Drew, you're kind of like the crazy coach in that one, but there's some pretty funny characters. I just kind of do a round table here. how did you get into character, and what were you thinking as you're in that character?
For me, really, all it took was the outfit. It kind of lent itself to
That's me.
the character, and I feel like it's an appropriate role for how I act in terms of our band dynamics anyway.
Yeah.
So it just was seamless.
Yeah.
For me, I'm an erstwhile theater kid,
Okay.
and back in
So they gave you the best acting job in the video then.
back when I was like actively doing theater stuff, I always wanted to get to play the villain.
Yeah.
And all of the directors, this was in high school, and all of the directors were like, Drew, you're too smiley. There's no way you could be a villain. And I was just like, you don't even know that I have an anxiety disorder. I'm perfect for this.
Have you not seen Joker, man?
I've got this down. But it's kind of funny because I couldn't get any director when I was actually like interested in theater to cast me as a villain, which I really wanted to do, just because that was the only like avenue that I felt was acceptable to like act mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Can't just go out on the street and just yell at people in their face and stuff.
yeah. But if it's on stage, you know it.
Yeah.
But now, like music videos and stuff, I feel like everyone's kind of, all the directors that we work with are like, what would it even look like if Drew was like really pissed off? So yeah.
Send that as your audition tape. Put me in the high school play.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it back to. I'll send it back to Mr. Van Devender and say, "See what you missed? You could have had this high camp." But anyways, yeah, it was me getting to express the high school play villain that I had always wanted to be when I was 17.
That's funny.
Man, and just like how Drew always wanted to be a high school play villain, I got to channel my childhood dream of outperforming at anyone athletically and winning a race. So I got to dress like an athlete, which I'm not. Got to run in slow motion like an athlete, which actually was like way more of a workout than I was expecting it to be.
The funny thing about it is that was full speed. It just looks slow motion.
Right. Yeah, that was and I got to eat a bunch of bananas. So
well, you don't want to cramp up, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Keep it nice and loose. And I thought it was funny that I was MC's antagonist in the music video.
Yeah.
We kind of slid past this, but it should be noted that when Zach said got to eat a lot of bananas, it was a pretty horrifying scene, us just all like scarfing down as many bananas as we could to get the banana peels because we didn't want to just throw them away.
Yeah.
Waste not, want not. Good thinking.
Yeah, right.
It was a very public track too. Like there were real people like running around trying to use the facility while we were doing that.
Yeah. But yeah, they all did an excellent acting job. I did not do really any acting at all. I was just kind of myself. But it was hard to keep any kind of straight face or do any kind of real acting while they were all being so funny the whole time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of laughing happening that day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that, the person, whoever edited it was like, oh, thanks a lot. Like, I got to do all these like cuts and takes and put this all together now. Everybody's laughing all the time. Yeah. But that's comedy. It's worth it in the end. It's the result that matters, not the arduous job of it all.
Right.
No matter how many bananas you eat and how many things you have to edit, it's worth it.
I think.
Let's go back to your let's go back to your previous EP, because I was curious. In your Bandcamp bio, you actually say that it was all recorded, mixed, and mastered, with the only equipment being a single humbucking pickup. Which I was like, that's absolutely impossible because you have drums, you have vocals. Like, you're not singing and tracking through a humbucker, are you? Explain what you mean by that, because I thought it was shenanigans.
Oh, it is. But the humbucker pickup in the bridge position like sums up kind of the ethos and aesthetic of our band well, I think. I don't know. That's what I would say about it. Yeah, it is a lie, unfortunately.
Well, it's a lie in the sense that there were other mics put up, but we just ended up deciding to mute them for the final results. So yeah, what we had done was we had put up the humbucker just kind of like in the middle of the room as a room mic to pick everything up, and it was intended just to be like a flavor thing. It's like, oh, we'll run this through some hardware,
Yeah.
give it a lot of character, and then just mix it in quietly. But as we were listening back to it in the control room, we were kind of like, this is actually kind of all it needs to be. So, it's a line that like, yeah, we did put other mics up when we were in there. It's just, didn't actually end up using them.
Yeah.
This is a great joke for anybody who has studied audio engineering or
yeah.
stuff, and for pretty much no one else.
I can only be idiosyncratic.
Yeah, I mean, I know obviously, like I've recorded, I've produced and mixed and mastered my own garbage, which just the amount of effort it takes to even get like one song to sound good with all the equipment you have is tough enough. So I will say that the easier and more simpler you make it, sometimes the better it sounds. So I can't fault you for saying, hey, you know what? Let's just use the simplest piece of equipment we got and see what that sounds like. Because it sometimes works better than all the advanced garbage that you have on that software over there.
Right. Yeah. It made me so happy to hear, speaking of this, that you thought the production value sounded so much higher on this one because the new EP, because we recorded this whole thing in a house and recorded the other one like at a studio.
Yeah.
Like the other one should have like, I don't know, I guess like in terms of equipment was maybe higher production, but I'm really glad this one sounds better.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, production value, I think, really comes from time spent on doing it the right way, more than what you use and what equipment that you spend on, spend money on. Because in reality, we all know that you could spend 10 years on editing any song to try to make it perfect, but at some point you just got to let it go and say, this is as good as I think it's going to get, or so close that I don't think I can spend any more time on this without driving myself insane.
Right. And there was a big difference in the time spent on recording the stuff. We spent 1 day on the first EP and a whopping 2 days on the new one.
Double the value right there.
Right. Yeah, we are really looking forward to being able to record in a more relaxed setting. We've been very used to, we're like a band that has been forced to get really efficient and good at optimization because we have had a long distance relationship and we've had these recording situations where, to like pinch pennies, we are in the studio for just 1 or 2 days at a time. And so everything has to be really well rehearsed. So like, for the 3 months leading up to recording the second EP, we were just running the 3 songs at all our band practices. So it's going to be great, hopefully one day to, on the one hand, be more relaxed when we live in the same city and can kind of practice more often. And then also, hopefully take some more time in the studio for future stuff. So I'm looking forward to loosening the belt a little bit on band activity.
Well, I will say, I'm a pretty old guy here. Back in my day, bands used to have to practice the entire thing that they were going to put down. So that way you could just go into the studio and run it as fast as you could. So that way you'd have less mistakes to fix. Right. So that's not the case anymore because people have like all the equipment they want in their homes basically at this point. So they can just sit there and meddle with stuff, which sometimes makes good, but more often than not makes more experimental garbage that I'm not usually going to say is better than if they just practice the songs like they wanted them to be, had a band around them. And especially with quarantine, it was really tough to do that. But, I always know that when I play with a band, it always sounds better than when I try to make music on my own because I'm only in my own head and it's not as good. So, when you're kind of like, when you're on the tight schedule, it seems like you do find a way to make it as tight and as like nice and best sounding. And then you go to the studio and say, let's just record this because that's what we're here to do. We're here to record some damn music.
Totally. And if it's okay for me to connect what you just said to something you asked about earlier, because I think it's
No,
really relevant.
I don't think so. I think you're gonna put me through something here. You're gonna say
No,
something
no,
and
no.
make me look bad. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
Go ahead.
no. No, it's I mean, I think that what you just said, like about the like collaborative value of music relates a lot to the ways that like making this kind of music is a kind of cure for the problems of introversion. Like it is, yeah, like you're saying, so easy to just get in your head when you're just in your room making music on your own, and can bounce things off the walls of the inside of your head forever. But it's so like, yeah, it's amazing how much better it is when you can like work on a song with friends, and like push each other to grow and put each other in check.
Yeah. You ever turn to Andrew and be like, hey, double that speed, mofo?
Actually,
most
often.
practices.
Yeah.
That's a direct
He's like, I hate
quote.
you guys. I hate
That's
you guys
weird.
so much. Nah, I'm just kidding. But so to segue into the next thing, I was going to say, I'm going to connect something back to what we were talking about earlier. So connecting what, instead of me, what you actually were talking about. And I think it is a bit about that introversion. I do want to talk about the original single off the first EP, Daffodils Love. And you were saying that it wasn't, that EP wasn't so personal, but that particular song seemed a bit more personal than some of the other songs on the album. And it's, the whole song is kind of about a woman sitting in a bar, not sure when she should leave. Also not sure if she should go home with somebody. Then I think ends up going home with somebody after quite a few drinks. But it's kind of one of these things like, as a person who, I like to go out, I like to have fun, but there's always this thing about like, if you go out and you're not having fun, why the hell are you still there? Should you just go? But at the same time, you're like, if I leave, what am I missing out on? It's like, how long do I have to stay here before the fun is really gone and it's not coming back? Right. So I'm not sure if that's the exact sentiment of the song, but I'm just curious as to like, do you feel like sometimes going out for the sake of going out is kind of just played out? Or is it kind of something like as an introvert, you're just trying to fit in and this is kind of what you feel like this is something you have to do? Whereas in Tell Me, it's kind of like you're pushing back at that concept.
Yeah, I definitely now do not do any kind of going out for the sake of going out at all. And I should mention too that song, I'm glad it sounds personal. It's actually a like modern retelling of the myth of Persephone and Hades.
Okay.
Yeah, I am in school, right, I'm a grad student, and I specialize in ancient Greek stuff. And so
I was a history major, and ancient Rome and ancient Greek were kind of my specialties. So don't get too much into the Greek, more in the Roman, but still had to read it all, or read a lot of it anyway. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
So,
well, sadly, I only have, I've only got Greek texts on my bookshelf. No Latin.
Well, I named my son Augustus based on the Emperor Augustus. So
whoa, that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I still got like Res Gestae up there and some other stuff by like Sophocles and Aristotle and Plato and all that stuff. Yeah, Socrates and all those guys, or as Bill and Ted might call them, Socrates. But yeah, that's awesome. So I didn't know that was kind of where you're going, but that does make more sense as to why you're saying it's not personal, because it's just fitting it into more of like something that could be brought into your life now from past text.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. As much as I wish I was cool enough to be the kind of person who was actually out at bars, getting crazy, making those kinds of decisions, just at no point in my life have I been that person. maybe one day, but yeah, I don't have bad FOMO really at all. Maybe this is probably a deficiency. I probably should be more concerned about missing out on things than I am.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think most people, especially after pandemic, most people just kind of stop caring because they're like, there's nothing I'm missing out on because I already knew what was out there. And when you're sitting at your home, you're like, the first couple of months, it was like, I'm missing out on everything. The next couple of months, it was like, I'm missing out on nothing because no one else is doing anything either. But yeah. So I know you guys are doing some regional touring.
Like, I don't despair enough.
Yeah.
I'm not despairing enough. I need to get some more of that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Isaac.
No, that's all good. So I was just gonna say, I know you guys are doing some regional touring, obviously now to promote the release of the new EP. Talk about what it's like actually playing together again and playing shows in front of people and playing the songs from the EP in front of people. And I know a lot of people are still trying to activate their fan bases because they've been dormant for like 2 years, and it's kind of hard to get people to come out to shows because I've seen big bands like The Darkness, for example. Like The Darkness is a pretty big band, and they didn't have a huge following show up in Las Vegas. I was like, this is pretty disappointing. It wasn't like small by any means, but you'd think it'd be pretty big for The Darkness. So, for indie bands, I'm sure it's even a little harder to get people to show up at these things when it's like, we've had 2 years of our momentum cut short. So talk to me about that.
First, I just have to reflect on the fact that I've been trying to repress this like for a couple of months now. The Darkness is one of my favorite bands.
That's awesome.
Of all time. And I had tickets for their show at the Cannery Ballroom on May 12th, 2020. That obviously was canceled. And when they announced their the new Motorheart North American tour, I was so excited. And then I saw that the Nashville date, which is Friday, we also have a show that night. And so I'm not getting to see them. And I'm like desperately sad about it.
Actually, another band, the Dead Deads, I think they're from Nashville as well. So that's kind of a cool connection as well.
Totally. Yeah. I'm so jealous. I wish we had their support slot. But maybe one day. But sorry, I'll let you, I want to hear what you guys have to say. I mean, it's been awesome. It's been so much fun getting to play for people. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I just want to say that we've learned the one instance of MC experiencing FOMO.
No, the Darkness.
For The Darkness. Yeah, it's been the best. It's been an absolute blast. We've still had to be kind of intentional and selective about how we schedule things, but just every time that we've been able to get on the road, get out in front of people, even when we're just playing together, in Andrew's extra bedroom that we've set aside as a practice space. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. Andrew, you have any insight? I mean, do you think that because obviously you kind of are newer to the band, so it's probably not you can't see what was it like before the pandemic with this band and what was it like after, but how's it been kind of jumping into this band and then kind of going from nothing to something, obviously?
Yeah, it's been very good. I don't know any other way to put it. This style of music we play isn't necessarily what I had played before joining the band or even listened to much. So I still find myself pleasantly surprised with how great of a reception we get when we play in places we've never been before. And my bar is set very low. So any amount of positive reception is just feels really good too.
Well, I think that's a good way to go about life is don't expect anything and just wait for the good things to come to you.
There's a Roman philosophy.
Yeah.
Especially after the pandemic. And Nashville also has a weird vibe about getting people to come out to shows because there's so many musicians here. But everywhere we've played, both in Nashville and outside, it's blown my expectations out of the water.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. My for me, my favorite part of this whole thing is getting to play music with my best friends, which is what I've been dreaming about since I was a kid. And so Dreaded LaramiE shows used to be maybe one a month, every other month or so, when we could get it, and it was a big deal. And I was like, all right, please come to this show. And so now that we are touring like a real professional band and getting to go to all these different places and stuff, it's really I don't know, it's been really, really rewarding to kind of see the to kind of see the dream kind of unfold and get to share what we do with a bunch of different people and experience different places along the way.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, I've never toured as a musician. Basically I played shows before, but never done any touring. But I can imagine, like, you know, and I've talked to other bands that, you know, independent bands that, like, oh, you know, we had guys in Prague and Denmark singing our songs, and nobody in the US even knew who we were. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, can you imagine that? Like, going to like some foreign country where they know your music better than anybody that even you know as friends know your music? That'd be pretty crazy. So
that'd be
yeah,
wild.
yeah.
And I also just want to throw out, like, you know, as far as like number of people coming out to shows, like, it varies any given show, but I think that something that has been really wonderful with this band has been sort of adopting this mindset of, like, okay, it really doesn't matter how many people, like the quantity of people who are at this show.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what this is about. You know, the people who are there, it's like about being appreciative to them and giving them everything we can that night to, you know, make it worth their while to have shown up. I think that's a plus side of living in Nashville, is that, you know, while it can be disheartening sometimes that everyone's a musician and no one really wants to go out to gigs because it's like, that's my day job, I want to give my ears a break, then it's also kind of gives you some perspective where when you play a gig, it's like, it doesn't matter how many people are here. I'd still want to have a great time and show whoever is here an awesome night. So
yeah, Drew, that's a good point too. And from, you know, from our perspective on stage, I would say that it's been like a very conscious and intentional, like, I guess, like, it's been a lesson that we've learned and that I've learned from this band, which is to, like, you know, draw our energy for shows from each other and trust each other to, like, to make it fun for ourselves instead of, like, necessarily always looking to the audience to get that sense, you know. That has helped me a whole lot, because it goes back to the these, like, being reliant on yourself and being confident in yourself. And so, like, if, you know, if we're a band that can have fun with each other no matter where or when the show is happening, then that makes, like, every show super worthwhile to me.
Yeah. I will say, if you're looking for a crowd reaction and that's the reason why you started a band, well, you're probably in a cover band or you're singing karaoke, because that's the only time anybody ever cares what you're doing up on stage. It's like, oh, that's a song I know. That's not your song, though, but I'm going to sing to it. But if you play your own songs, they're usually like just standing there going like this at best. And if you get that, that's a pretty good feeling.
Totally.
All right. So we'll add some links to the show notes below this episode and everything. But before we go, did you guys have anything that you wanted to kind of mention, you know, plug, say anything to the listeners, tell them about, you know, where you guys will be or how to find you or anything like that?
Yeah, totally. So I guess the first thing is this will be announced, like, formally in a few days, but we have a new single coming out in a couple of weeks, Where the Hardcore Kids Go. So you can be on the lookout for that. And yeah, we have some shows coming up. We're in Nashville and Lexington, April 8th and 9th, which is just Friday and Saturday. I'm not sure if this will be out by then.
This will be this will be past then, but that's okay.
Oh, no problem. Well, and then after that, we're in Cincinnati on the 21st, West Virginia in Huntington on the 22nd, and in Philadelphia on the 23rd.
Awesome.
With some, lots of summer dates kind of out west and in the middle of the country that will be announced in a couple weeks here.
I'm almost 100% certain that Las Vegas will not be on that, because nobody ever comes to Las Vegas, but that's okay.
Not this time, but maybe next time.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else you guys want to add, Andrew, Drew, or Zach?
I saw you had Tim Kasher on the show. That's great.
Yep. He is an absolute favorite of mine. Literally, I think the man is like a genius, brilliant person. So, yeah, I'll actually be interviewing Vaden Lewis from the Toadies coming up as well. So he's a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of his as well.
Yeah.
So if you like Cursive and Tim Kasher, then yeah, I think we'd get along really well.
I had Ugly Organ is an incredible album.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I'm plugging other bands. So
Now you're plugging my show, which I appreciate.
yeah.
Anything else you guys want to add, or Zach? I think you might have something.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, like, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and for getting a spotlight on people that are still trying to kind of figure themselves out and stuff. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, this has been awesome for me because, I like to dig into the minds, and I don't just like to ask these superficial questions. So hopefully the entire conversation we had was both fun and I guess introspective, I guess I want to say. But yeah, I like how I just go really high in voice when I'm questioning myself. But yeah, I think it was awesome. So I want to thank you guys so much, the Dreaded LaramiE, for the awesome conversation today. If you guys haven't checked out their music yet, make sure to go to the show notes below this episode. Click on those links. Go listen to the music. First EP is all out. You can go check that out anywhere on streaming. The full full new EP will be out on May, I want to say 13th. Yeah, it was Friday the 13th. That's where I was like, I know it's like a superstitious holiday. Yeah, it'll be Friday, May 13th. That'll be a couple weeks after this episode airs, but you can go check out the first single, Tell Me, the music video as well. And then obviously the second single for Where the Hard Kids Go. Is that Where the Hard Kids Go? Yeah, I think that's the name of it. Yeah, I think I got it right. Very soon. I think it'll probably be right around the time that this airs. So that's awesome. So guys, if you like what you heard on the show, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends on social media. You can see the full video interview on our YouTube channel as well. Also, if you want to check out some of our written content or any of the products or merch that we have available, go to poweredbyrock.com to read our absolutely free rocking blog full of album reviews, interviews, and lists to keep you entertained. I'm going to start that over because I was trying to swallow at the same time as talking. This is behind the scenes stuff right here. Also, if you want to check out some of our written content or any of the products or merch that we have available, go to poweredbyrock.com to read our absolutely free rocking blog full of album reviews, interviews, and lists to keep you entertained, and find our gear as well so you can pick up some items to play and look like a rock legend. That's our show for today. We'll see you for the next episode. Until then, rock on.
Supposed to be